Hey there, I'm Elizabeth. I'm 45, a single mom, and a high school teacher. Life's been a roller coaster, but I've always managed to keep things together. My daughter Hazel is 22 now, studying business in college. I swear, it feels like just yesterday she was learning to ride a bike. Mom, I need new textbooks. They're so expensive this semester, Hazel said, giving me that look she knows I can't resist. I sighed, checking my bank balance on my phone. Honey, I'll figure it out. Maybe we can find some used ones. But Mom, everyone else has the new editions. I'll be so behind. Lately, this kind of conversation has been a weekly thing. Don't get me wrong, I'd do anything for her, but it's getting harder to keep up with her demands. The other day, my best friend Lisa came over for coffee. Elizabeth, have you seen Hazel's new Instagram posts? Girls living large, she said, showing me her phone. I nearly choked on my coffee. Hazel was decked out in designer clothes, partying at a fancy club. My stomach dropped. Where's she getting the money for all this? Lisa asked. I shook my head. I don't know. Maybe her new boyfriend. Speaking of the boyfriend, John, met him once and got bad vibes immediately. Hazel used to tell me everything, but now it's like pulling teeth just to get her to say hello. At work, my colleague Mike noticed my distraction. Elizabeth, you okay? I forced a smile. Just parent stuff. Mike's a good guy, always there with a dad joke or a shoulder to lean on. Sometimes I wonder if there could be something more, but with everything going on with Hazel, dating is the last thing on my mind. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Thompson. This is Karen from Midwest Bank. We're calling about the missed payments on your loan. My heart stopped. I'm sorry, what loan? The personal loan for $50,000 you took out 3 months ago. You've missed the last 2 payments. I felt like I was going to pass out. There must be some mistake. I never took out a loan. Ma'am, we have the documents here with your signature. If you can't make the payments, we'll have to discuss default options. The room started spinning. A loan I never took, my signature. There was only one person I could think of. I hung up, my hands shaking. How could this be happening? I've always tried to do right by Hazel, to give her everything she needed. And now, this. The next morning, I marched into the bank, demanding answers. The teller handed me copies of the loan documents, and my heart sank. There it was, my signature. Perfect, down to every detail. But I had never signed it. Ma'am, are you all right? The teller asked, noticing my pale face. No, I'm not. This isn't my signature. I left the bank in a daze, clutching those damning papers. Back home, I waited for Hazel, my mind racing. When she finally walked in, I couldn't hold back. Hazel, did you forge my signature for a loan? She froze, eyes wide. What? Mom, that's crazy. Why would you even think that? Don't lie to me. The bank called. They have documents with my signature, but I never signed anything. Hazel's face crumpled, and she burst into tears. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. My world shattered. How could you do this? Do you realize what you've done? Through sobs, Hazel confessed. The partying, the shopping sprees, even gambling. It was like I didn't know my own daughter anymore. I'll fix it, Mom, I promise. Just don't tell anyone, please. I was torn. This was my baby girl, but what she'd done was criminal. Hazel, this isn't something you can just fix. We're talking about fraud. She grabbed my hands, pleading. Mom, please, I'll get a job. I'll pay it back. Don't ruin my life over one mistake. One mistake? This was a calculated series of actions. But looking at her tear-stained face, I wavered. I need time to think, I said, walking away. I called Lisa, my voice shaking. Can you come over? It's bad. Lisa arrived in record time, and I spilled everything. Elizabeth, honey, you have to report this. This isn't just about the money. She committed a crime. But she's my daughter. How can I turn her in? And what happens when they come after you for the money? You could lose everything. She was right, but the thought of Hazel in handcuffs made me sick. The next day at work, I was a mess. Mike cornered me in the teacher's lounge. Elizabeth, what's going on? You look like you haven't slept in days. I broke down, telling him everything. His face hardened. Elizabeth, I know she's your daughter, but you can't protect her from this. She needs to face the consequences. I nodded, knowing what I had to do. That evening, I sat Hazel down. This is your last chance. Tell me everything, and we'll figure out how to make this right. Hazel's eyes lit up with hope. Really? Oh, Mom, thank you. I promise I'll fix everything. We spent hours going over her spending, the full extent of the loan, everything. It was worse than I thought, but Hazel seemed genuinely remorseful, promising to get a job and pay it all back. I'll start looking for work tomorrow, she said, hugging me tightly. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. But something in my gut told me this wasn't over. The next morning, Hazel was gone. Her room was empty, closet cleared out. On her bed was a note. I'm sorry, Mom. I can't face this. I love you. I collapsed to the floor, the note crumpling in my fists. My own daughter had run away, leaving me to face the mess she'd made. Sitting there, surrounded by the remnants of Hazel's life, I realized the true betrayal wasn't just the forged loan. It was the shattering of trust between a mother and daughter. With shaking hands, I picked up my phone, knowing the call I was about to make would change everything. But I had no choice. It was time to face the music, even if it meant losing my daughter in the process. I was in the middle of teaching algebra when it happened. The classroom door burst open, and 2 officers walked in. Elizabeth Thompson. Yes, that's me. What's going on? You're under arrest for fraud and identity theft. The students gasped. I felt the blood drain from my face as they cuffed me right there in front of everyone. The walk through the school corridors was excruciating. Colleagues stared, some in disbelief, others in judgment. The jail cell was cold and lonely. I sat there, replaying every moment with Hazel, wondering where I went wrong. The betrayal cut deep, leaving me raw and broken. Elizabeth, you've got a visitor. It was Mike, looking worried but determined. I've hired a lawyer for you. We're going to fight this. Mike, I can't afford. Don't worry about that now. We need to get you out of here. The investigation was brutal. They dug into every aspect of my life, revealing things about Hazel I never knew. Casino receipts, maxed out credit cards, a trail of lies that made me sick to my stomach. Your daughter has a serious gambling problem, Mrs. Thompson, the detective said, his voice cold. I lost my job, 20 years of teaching gone in an instant. The school board couldn't risk the scandal. Lisa was my rock through it all. She took care of my house, gathered evidence, and kept me sane during those long nights in jail. We'll get through this, Elizabeth. I promise. But Hazel and her boyfriend, John, had vanished, no calls, no messages. I was left alone to face the consequences of her actions. One night, lying on the hard jail cot, I hit rock bottom. I cried until I had no tears left, wondering if I'd failed as a mother, if this was all my fault. Then, a breakthrough. Security footage from a bank showed Hazel, clear as day, forging my signature. It was the evidence we needed. The day I was released, reporters swarmed me, cameras flashed, questions flew. My reputation was in tatters, but I was free. It was time to rebuild. Starting over at 45 isn't easy. I took whatever jobs I could find. Waitressing, tutoring, even walking dogs. More coffee, hon? I'd ask, swallowing my pride as I refilled cups at the local diner. Slowly, the truth spread. People who had judged me began to see the real story. Old colleagues reached out, offering support and apologies. We were wrong about you, Elizabeth. We're sorry. Then came the news that changed everything. Hazel and John were caught at the Canadian border with fake passports. The prosecutor called, asking if I wanted to press charges. It was the hardest decision of my life. I'm sorry, but I can't protect her anymore. She needs to face the consequences. The trial was a media circus. Hazel pleaded not guilty, but the evidence was overwhelming. Then, in a shocking twist, John turned on her. He claimed it was all Hazel's idea, saying she believed her mom would never turn her in. Hazel's face crumpled, betrayed by the very person she had chosen over me. The judge's gavel came down hard. Hazel, 5 years. John, 18 months with a plea deal. When it was my turn to speak, I stood tall, facing my daughter for the first time in months. Hazel, I love you. I always will. But love doesn't mean enabling destruction. You broke my heart, shattered my trust, and nearly ruined my life. I hope you find help and peace, but I can't be part of that journey. Goodbye, Hazel. I walked out of the courtroom, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. 1 year later, life looks different. I started a support group for parents like me, turning pain into purpose. After a lengthy review, the school board reinstated me with a public apology. Lisa and I meet for coffee every week, our bond's stronger than ever. And Mike? Let's just say second chances aren't just for careers. Ready for dinner? Mike asks, taking my hand. Almost. Just got some news. Hazel's appeal was denied. I feel a twinge of sadness, but mostly relief. As we walk out, I realize I'm finally at peace. I've learned to prioritize my own well-being and surround myself with genuine love and support. Life threw me one hell of a curveball, but I'm still standing, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next. The toxic people in my life are gone, and I've found my own kind of justice, the peace that comes from letting go and moving forward. The story you've just heard is over, but the conversation is just beginning. So now, I want to ask you something that cuts to the heart of this tale. If you were in my shoes, would you have turned your own child in, knowing it could mean years in prison? Or would you have tried to protect them, even at the cost of your own freedom and reputation? It's not an easy question, is it? Hazel is my daughter, my flesh and blood. The instinct to protect your child is one of the strongest forces we have as parents. But on the other hand, her actions were deliberate, repeated, and caused immense harm. She betrayed my trust in the worst possible way. What do you think is the right thing to do in a situation like this? Where do we draw the line between parental love and personal responsibility? Is there a point where tough love becomes the only way forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.